I am excited and delighted to welcome our guest today, Mark Horler, CEO and founder of two businesses, CEA Proteins and UKUAT. So, welcome, Mark, and buenos dias.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for inviting me to be here.
So, Mark, can you tell us a little bit more of what you do and for how long you've been doing it?
Sure, absolutely. So I've been around the sort of vertical farming and controlled environment agriculture industry for about 10 years now. Back in 2017, I started UK Urban AgriTech, which is an industry association for the controlled environment agriculture space in the UK. Have built that up slowly over the past, whatever it is, 6 years or so. Into quite a thriving industry association. And then just more recently this year, I've started CEA Proteins as a sort of private limited company. It's kind of a consultancy, I suppose you'd call it, around this alternative and additional proteins space to bring folks together across those areas.
Wow, so running two businesses, you must be very busy, eh?
It keeps me out of trouble, certainly.
Yes, yes. So, Mark, is this industry, when you're growing up, is this something you aspire to, or how do you end up doing what you do?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, actually. I mean, I did grow up with sort of allotments, this kind of thing. But I was never really, I don't have any kind of farming background. I did that thing that a lot of people do, I suppose. When I got to my 30s, I made a bit of a change of career and just found myself almost by accident working in this line of work, but just found that, yeah, it really fit with me and I was very passionate about it. And just carried on from there and have never really stepped away from it.
Wow, very good. So by accident, most businesses happen by accident.
Yeah.
Yes, yesterday I was with another business owner who set up the business because of his son. They were having a conversation and boom, the business was born. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the case of UKUAT, certainly it was originally an agreement between a few people in the industry in the UK to keep each other up to date. The first phone call, there were maybe 5 or 6 of us, on a phone call, just agreeing to keep each other up to date. But more people joined and more people joined. And you sort of think, well, there's clearly something here. There's a need for this.
Yes.
And I'm in a good position to be able to deliver that. And that's really what a business is, I suppose, isn't it? You identify a need for something that you can provide a solution to, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And here it is.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. So what going through COVID, I mean, you've been before, during, and after COVID. How did COVID affect your business? And what changes do you have to make?
Yeah, it's funnily enough, in a way, COVID almost did my business a favor, which was strange. It was very, very much a silver linings thing. I don't want to paint COVID as a good thing, but it really kind of focused minds on really driving this thing. And we were all working online anyway. I mean, the company is distributed, our board is made up of people all over the UK, so we were used to working online, but all of a sudden everybody was working online and there was all this time to do stuff in, and a realization and an understanding in the wider world that, supply chains for food were vulnerable. And there's been a lot of interest in this kind of controlled environment technology as a way to sort of address some of these supply chain challenges and vulnerabilities in the system. So in an odd way, it did us a favor, even though it made it much more difficult to kind of do things like events and stuff like that, which are a sort of staple of what we do. It did mean, everybody was online and you could have lots of conversations and really drive things. So yeah, it was a bit of a mixed bag, I suppose, but mostly actually to the good.
Right. It's a number of businesses benefited from it, but the majority had to survive through it. So, but I'm glad it worked out for you.
Thank you.
What's being a business owner? What's what's your biggest learning since you've been a business owner?
Wow, I mean, there's a lot really, because UKUAT being a non-profit industry association is quite a specific type of organization, and there's a lot of sort of requirements around. It's a learning curve, right? You have to sort of learn the governance, you have to learn the the finance side of things. As we've scaled up, we've had to go through all the processes of, registering for VAT and sorting out, accounting and all of those little things that you just sort of think, yeah, I'll fix that. But then when it actually comes to them, you have to actually figure out how to do this stuff. And I've been very lucky. I have a good board of directors with some experience that's helped to drive that. But yeah, it's always a learning curve to figure out those questions, and particularly, yeah, the governance of an increasingly large association where we have to kind of represent our members. You have to think very carefully about how you do things a lot of the time.
Yes, now, it's very interesting what you've said, because many business owners, they are brilliant at what they do. The plumber fixing pipes, the architect doing drawings and so on. But running a business is totally different, isn't it? It's more transversal. Oh, yeah. You need to know a little bit of everything. So
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you have a chance, what I would always say to people is, if you can, surround yourself with good people who know more than you do about things. As I say, my board of directors, or our board of directors, has a lot of expertise in a lot of different areas, and that's been vital. To try and done all this on my own, I don't think I would have been able to do it, honestly.
Yeah.
So having good people around you that you can trust and who know things that you don't is really, really important.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Richard, on that note, Richard Branson, he says, I always recruit my weaknesses.
Yeah.
So if I'm not good at this, get somebody to do it. So yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It is. It's find people who know how to do stuff, rather than trying to do everything yourself and go it alone, which inevitably will just, at best, you'll burn out, and at worst, the company will crash, right? So,
yes. If you want to do something bigger than yourself, you need other people. Yeah,
absolutely.
Who is do you have a role model, somebody you look up to that is regarding success, somebody you look up to in life that inspires you?
Yeah, there's been a lot of people who've inspired me in a lot of different ways over the years. I wouldn't say there's sort of one person that necessarily stands out. I try to learn from everyone I come across, right? But there's any number of people who are brilliant people, and who, you just look at them and you think, yeah, you've really got that particular thing nailed, and I can learn a lot from you. So I think, yeah, it's a real mixed bag of trying to integrate the best of what you see around you into, and trying to, either emulate that yourself or find someone who can provide that.
Yes. Is there any podcast you listen to that you've learned in the business context? Any podcast or books you've have helped you in your journey?
Don't know about that, really, to be honest. Yeah, I none particularly stand out. I think I've just, sort of learnt by doing mostly. It's been that process of being like, just finding that I have to do a thing, and then figuring out how to do that thing, and then going, okay, that's now a thing I know how to do. So I think there's no substitute for just having to get in there and, roll your sleeves up and do the thing.
Let me recommend a book for you and people watching this recording. This book is pretty good. It's the E-Myth Revisited. It's the blueprint of how to build a business and the things you need to take into account. It's a story, but very, very, very good for people starting a business or growing a business. So that's one I would recommend myself to business owners if they haven't read it.
Okay.
Good.
Awesome.
And so, Mark, what are your aspirations for the business in the next 5 years? What do you want to take the business in the next 5 years, 5 years from now?
I mean, yeah, it depends which one we're talking about, of course. But from the point of view of UKUAT, I think, it's been a thing that's been growing since we made it, and now what we're trying to do is put it on a really kind of stable long-term financial footing, right? Because an industry association in particular it tends to be quite a lean business. And you make money from particular things, and revenue comes in from projects or things that you do. But what you need is that kind of that core stability, to get it so that it can just stand on its own 2 feet. If I were like if I were run over by a bus tomorrow, could the business survive and continue? That's what you want, is that kind of stability where
Yes.
it stands in its own right. And I think that's really what we're trying to do is yeah, sort of build that resilience into it, that it can continue to grow but be stable in the long term. On the flip side of that, obviously CEA Proteins is a very new business. So I don't really know what the future will hold for that one. Obviously, what I want to do is grow it and you know, generate revenue and do all of those things that a very new business has to do. But I don't know exactly what that will look like yet. So that's an adventure yet to come.
Very good. Okay. In terms of recruitment, Mark, do you many business owners I talk to, they find recruitment quite difficult. So either they lose talent in the business, somebody poaches that employee, or they just can't find enough talented people to join their business. Have you had do you have those issues in your industry?
In our industry, yes. In my company, I'd say we're a fairly lean operation and we run fairly tight ship, so it's not been too much of an issue. But certainly across the controlled environment agriculture sector as a whole, yes, recruitment is a challenge for people. It's a very, not only because you know you're trying to find people in a competitive market, but also because it's so new. Um, there isn't that kind of full pipeline of talent through yet. You know, there aren't specific university courses or vocational training courses for running a vertical farm, for example, yet. When those come, it will be easier. But yeah, it's a real challenge for a lot of businesses in the sector, certainly.
Okay, and what does the future look like, and what do you see as the main challenges moving forward for you and the business?
I think, yeah, it's that stability thing, right? Because it's when you're running a business of this kind, um, it's always quite a yeah, like quite a lean operation, and you're sort of, you know, I guess it's true for most businesses, you're looking for the next revenue, you're looking for the next thing that's coming along. um and that creates risk ultimately, because you know, if it doesn't come in, then that's a challenge, right? So being an industry association, our costs are relatively low, so that makes it a little bit easier for us. We don't have, you know, sort of big capital expenditure or anything like that. But yeah, I guess that's it, is finding that stable core funding that allows the organization to grow sustainably over time is really what it's all about.
Yes, and on that note, what's if you started your business again, what would you do differently?
That's a good question, actually. Um, I mean, I guess the difference now would be what I know now. I could have saved myself a lot of stress along the way, right? If I knew then what I know now, it would have been a much easier journey. So I would have done much of the same things, to be honest, but just would have made them a great deal easier.
Yes, and fewer
So
mistakes. Yeah, Jim Rohn said that your business will grow as much as you grow. So
yeah,
yeah, and
yeah, I think that's it, exactly that. Yeah.
yeah, very good, great insight. What would you say to anyone thinking of going into business for the first time?
I mean, firstly, go for it, do it, right? Because, you know, as much as it will at times, you know, have you sitting there with your head in your hands at, you know, 11 o'clock at night trying to figure it all out, it is worth it in the end if you can make a go of it. So, you know, but yeah, my advice over and over again, as I said earlier, is don't try and do everything yourself. You know, that's the thing, is like what you said with Richard Branson, you know, or any of those kind of things. Find good people, um, get help, you know, from wherever you can, whether that's kind of resources like reading books or podcasts, whether it's kind of business support services that exist, or whether it's just having good people in your organization. Get that support network built around yourself, because that's what's going to make it work in the long run.
Brilliant. And do you have, just to wrap up, do you have any advice for your 18-year-old self?
My 18-year-old self was a very different person to me. So I guess my advice to my 18-year-old self would probably be a clip round the ear and tell me to pull myself together. You know, it's
Yes.
yeah. I mean, I did very different things back then. I did 12 years working in social care. So I guess maybe I would say to myself, you know, that these things are possible and that, you know, it's never too late to start something new and pursue what you're passionate about, right? Or what you care about or what you think will do good in the world.
Yeah, no, definitely. I don't know if you've watched the movie The Founder. Is
Yeah.
McDonald's. That guy, Ray Kroc, is 52, I think, when he started his like expanded McDonald's from one restaurant to whatever number it is now, 30,000. So yeah, it's
Yeah, it can be done. Absolutely. So I think there's a lot of people think, you know, oh, I'm not sure if I could start a business. I mean, you know, do it.
yeah.
Yeah. Believe.
Brilliant. And is there any news or events or offers that you would like to share with people watching this recording from either business you run?
Yeah, I mean, events wise, I guess we're going to be, if anyone happens to be up and around in Aberdeen next week or so, 10th of October, and we'll be doing a big event up there. So up at the Future Farm Expo. So you know, if you're in Scotland and if you're in within reach of Aberdeen, then come see us there. That'd be great.
There you go. Well, Mark, it's been a real pleasure to have you join us today at Business Spotlight, and thank you for sharing your experience and wisdom with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's been great to talk to you.